It's time once again for Western New York Athletics High School Football Weekly, hosted by Frank Wolf with Dick Gallagher from WGRZ High School Sports. Today's show is brought to you by Scroy Financial of West Seneca, the Paul Wolf Agency in Kenmore, CSA Prep Star, the North End Bar and Grill, Cipriano Realtors, BuffaloSportsPage.com, and by Southtown Trophies in Orchard Park, New York, a proud sponsor of the Buffalo Sports Page Athlete of the Week Award, announced each week on BuffaloSportsPage.com.
Welcome to WNY Athletics High School Football Weekly. This is our fourth episode. I'm Frank Wolf of WNY Athletics with Dick Gallagher from WGRZ High School Channel 2. And Dick, we've played 3 full weeks of high school football, and we learn something new each week, don't we?
It's a fun year. If you look at the quality of the teams plus the quality of the players, and I was looking at a potential, player of the year. I wrote down 20 names. And it took me about 2 minutes, and it's not going to be. But I think last week Dennis on as far as the Conley Cup, I think that committee's going to have a tough time, and I think the French committee's going to have a tough time too.
Yeah.
So, but that speaks volumes as far as the quality. And I think that when you take a look, the fact that there's 5 classes in New York State, hundreds of football teams, and we have 3 of the 5 number ones with Lancaster, Class AA, West Seneca West A, and CSPD.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the Conley Cup, I see the list that they come out with each week, and it's really tough to jam, 25, 30 players into 15. It's an impossible job. And then I'm sure the Trench Trophy guys are having just as much hard a time recognizing the right players each week. But I know those committees are out there doing a bunch of good for the community and recognizing those players. But this past weekend, the big game in Class AA, if we start there, was Lancaster. They were up at Will North, and it didn't go as well as Will North would have hoped. And Lancaster came in injured, not necessarily injured, but they were missing players due to illness. But that didn't seem to sidetrack them at all. They came out and got the job done.
No, they deserve to win. And one of the things when you're looking at the Spartans after the last couple of weeks is their defense. If they don't get it going better, they're not going to have a long run in the playoffs. And when you look at Lancaster and you look at one play in the fourth quarter, about 6 minutes, and Jason Mansell runs 41 yards. And you saw 6 or 7 Spartans, and it's like, wow. And they, he got the first down, and they deserved to win. They played their hearts out. Everyone left everything on the field.
Yep.
But North's got to pick up their game. And then Dylan Kelly, I think he had like 4 or 5 touches the whole year, the whole game. To me, he's one of the contenders for Player of the Year. He's outstanding. He's quick. Why not give him the ball 10, 12 times in different ways?
Yeah. Well, they've got a lot of work to do. They have to get back to the drawing board, Will North does, but that's just one loss for them as far as league play goes. Lancaster's undefeated. Clarence, though, that was another one that really stuck out at me. They went down 34-7 to Bennett. I didn't expect that train to come crashing through the way they did, but, they're a week removed from 4 guys rushing for over 100 yards. Before the season, when we spoke to Coach McDuffie, he thought the line had a lot of gelling to do and not a lot of time to do that, but they seen 2 straight weeks that offensive and defensive line has really come along pretty well, and they've knocked off 2 tough teams. Lockport, they had a big convincing win over Niagara Falls, so a lot of people didn't think that was a big win for Bennett, but after seeing what Niagara Falls just saw in Lockport, and now going to Clarence and beating them 34-7, that says a lot about how that team's starting to come together.
Well, I think when you look at it, Clarence got 2 losses, and you can't afford many losses this year, given that there are only going to be 4 playoff teams.
Correct.
And Bennett, when you take a look, they're going to play Williamsville North, then they go against Lancaster, then they go to Orchard Park. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers were in the playoffs and made a run for the title.
Yeah, the schedule gets awfully tough for Bennett right now. Now we're going to really find out what they're made of. But that was a nice win for them at Clarence on a Friday night. On the road. So Bennett, you go to Will North, and then you have Lancaster coming in. So I know we're not going to look too far ahead, but that's shaping up to be an incredible game already. Orchard Park hasn't really gotten a lot of recognition, I don't think, through 3 weeks. But I'll tell you that Jack Sharp, he's a tough quarterback, only a junior. I believe he had 2 touchdown passes and rushed for another this past Friday against Hutch Tech, a very staunch defense. They scored all their points in the first half.
But they were lucky to win that game because Hudson Tech gave it to pretty much with an intercepted pass when they were on the 5-yard line going in for a score, and then Orchard Park, gets a score and wins the game. And if you look at it, all 4 of the teams that are 5 teams that are competing for the double A's, they're going to have to play right to the 8th game of the season when OP and Lancaster play as to the seedings and how that's going to work out.
It's going to come down to week 7 for Double A. I don't think there's any way around it. Lancaster, they're on quite a roll right now at 3-0. They've got a pretty big game coming up this week. Regardless, we'll have to see if they can keep it going as they take on Clarence at Lancaster, where we talked earlier. Clarence really can't afford to lose too many games in Double A. They've already lost to Bennett and Will North, so this is almost a must-win game for them because you got to believe Lancaster, North, and Bennett are going to be 3 of those 4 teams the way it looks now. But Hutch Tech at 0-2, do you think their season's done or in terms of playoffs, or do they have some opportunities still?
They got a tough road to get into the playoffs the way that the schedule is right now. And there is a week 8, which is rare, but then in week 8 there's only a few games with OP and Lancaster playing that.
Sure.
So that could determine who's going to be in the playoffs, but particularly the seedings.
Especially with Lockport getting the win so early in the season against a Double A team. Granted, it's Niagara Falls, but still, a win is a win. Doesn't matter against who. So I don't think we can count out the Lions, and maybe who knows if they can gel together. They've got that Malik Brooks going pretty strong. We had 2 nice touchdowns this past weekend, so you never know if Lockport can get it together and get on some kind of roll. They could be a surprise team as well.
It could have. Malik Brooks was playing as a sophomore, and this was going to be his senior year, and he had 3 years. I think that there would be a lot of colleges recruiting him, and they still might be recruiting him. He's such a tremendous athlete, and he's a speed merchant. You give him an inch, he's gone.
Yeah, incredible game for them. If we get down into the A's, a number of good games there this past weekend. West Seneca West and Niagara Wheatfield continue to be unbeatable. They're 2-0 in league play, 3-0 overall. Jamestown comes up to Ken West Saturday and doesn't do too well. They fall to 1-1 there. Ken West gets their first win, as we spoke about, and then Hamburg and Frontier. Hamburg had a nice opportunity to get a win over Niagara Wheatfield this past Thursday, but were unable to keep the lead. They ran into some trouble there. So it's looking like West Seneca West and Niagara Wheatfield, I believe they meet up in week 6. So that'll be something to keep your eyes on. Grand Island moves to 2-0 after they defeated, who'd they beat? Sweet Home this past week. So that was a big game for them. Ken East gets in the winner's circle after a win over North Tonawanda. What do you make of that game?
Well, when you take Danzo Young and Nathan Murray, the quarterback and running back, and Danzo had 247 yards rushing. He had, I think, 10 tackles. And I think given what the Bulldogs have gone through the last 5 or 6 years, winning very few games, and perseverance is the best indicator as far as turning the program around. That's what the coaching staff had. That's what the kids have, and they could very easily wind up with Grand Island as far as being first and second, and then to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, and McKinley, they're holding strong, 1-1. Williamsville East, they just defeated the Flames this past weekend. North Tonawanda 1-1 and Sweet Home 0-2. We talked earlier that A2 might be the toughest division in terms of which teams are going to come out for the playoffs because they all seem pretty even.
Yeah, and it also, we talked about this before. Excuse me. For example, in the A's, if you have West Seneca West and Niagara Wheatfield, and then you have Grand Island, then you need one more. It could be Kenmore East. Then you go into the A3s. You have South Park, you have West Seneca East, and you have Star Point. And I think Star Point's playing West Seneca East this week. And it'll depend on how those go. But the one thing that I would like to see is making sure that those three teams are in the playoffs. But for someone like West Seneca East or any one of those three gets shut out, and then another school from a weaker team just because they have a little better record gets in. I think what they need to do is section next year, or if it's a state policy, is you put the leagues together not by enrollment, by getting a few people sitting around the table and going through an analysis as far as what the leagues will look like, and also putting, quality teams that they're all equal.
Yeah.
And not the way that it's turning out this year. Same way, same scenario happens with the Bees.
Yes, I agree. So if we take a look at A3, Star Point and South Park West Seneca East are all 2-0. Everyone else is 0-2 with Will South Maritime and Amherst. But you're right. It looks like that's a three-team race right there between the Star Points and the South Parks and West Seneca East, with Star Point and West Seneca East going at it this week. That's going to be an incredible game to attend. Aaron Chase, the quarterback at Star Point, has been unstoppable so far. I got to believe Jimmy Marino's defense at West Seneca East has something in store for him, something we haven't seen this year. Sean Dolak, you know how good he is. He's got a strong football family. You got to believe that West Seneca East is going to be up for that game. And they've scored 105 points, given up 40. They've only given up 40. That's the lowest in. Actually, it's the second lowest in A right now, with South Park giving up 21 in the A3 division.
If you look at it, South Park's had a couple of injuries, and their defense has really held them together, and the reason why they're 3-0. But then when last year, I think it was, these last year, the year before, West Seneca West in South Park played, West Seneca East upset them. But if you look at Star Point, Aaron Chase has 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns in 3 games. I've never seen that in 3 weeks of stats. And if he kept that up, he'd break Jake Sisson's record from Jamestown back a few years ago of over 3,000 yards in a season. He's the only one that's been able to do that, I believe.
How much do you put it into those numbers, given the teams that they've played so far? Amherst was a walk in the park for them. Maritime ended up being a walk in the park for them. And then Grand Island, it was a close game in the first quarter, but then they had an injury there and seemed like it might have deflated the Vikings a little bit. How much stock do you put into Aaron Chase's numbers at this point, given the fact that the 3 teams he's played weren't necessarily the top quality team that you would expect?
I think regardless of the competition, that Aaron Chase has 4 legitimate wide receivers to throw to, and you see related with the stats, and they're all outstanding. Golden has got tremendous vertical lead. And then if you're looking, you're watching, he worked all, since the season ended last year, and he was out with an injury. He worked to get better, and the team got better. And now when you look at them this year, they're just gelling. So it's going to take a strong effort from someone to be able to knock them from the undefeated ranks. And if you look in the last 5 years, Star Point's got a 35-5 record in the JVs, and they've been good not just in the JVs, but in the varsity. And whereas they used to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust, this year it's not 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's air Oriole.
Moving on to Class B, Dick. Cheektowaga and Pioneer at 3-0, and then you got a bunch of 1-1s and 1-2s here. You got Maryvale at 1-1, coming off a big loss at Pioneer. Lake Shore is at 1-1; they get their first win. Iroquois 1-2, 1-2 in league play, and then Newport and East Aurora Holland haven't won a game yet. They're 0-5 in league play, 0-6 collectively. East Aurora scored their first points this past week. It was a safety.
2 points. They've got 2 points in 3 games, and they lost 6-2. But Dan Russell, that was his first win, and who knows? Winning breeds winning, and what they'll do this year.
Yeah, you never know. They could go on a bit of a run there. Of course, all you need is a little bit of luck, and who knows where it can go.
But you have that Finn O'Brien, who's a transfer from California, 6'2", 190 linebacker. He is a stud, and he's got to be one of the candidates. For all Western New York linebacker.
We'll have to wait and see for sure on that. Were you surprised at the way Pioneer pulling out that win over Maryvale on Friday night?
No, I thought that Pioneer had a good shot because no one was going to stop Riverman. So when you look at it, he had 41 carries, most by any running back this year. He wound up 247 yards, and then defensively, I think he was in double digits. And when you look at his leadership and the fact that he's a wrestler, the fact that he's got a 96 GPA, he's golden. And to this day, I don't understand why he does not have scholarships. If he was playing in Texas,
Yeah.
or if he was playing in West Coast, he'd have colleges all over him.
Maybe he doesn't know exactly where he wants. The only thing I can think of is he hasn't decided on what he wants to do just yet. But I had a chance to meet him for the first time Friday after the game. I got to go down and see that, and really, Maryville couldn't tackle him. They tried,
Yep.
and he ran over their linebackers, not once, a couple of times. He ran over guys. He's a wrecking ball.
Ferguson, I think, from Maryville had 22 tackles, and Sincere Middlebrooks had 20 in that game. And when you look at the number of tackles, plus there was a couple of other kids that I think had double-digit tackles from Maryville. And he's a load, but he just has tremendous instinct, power, leverage you learn, wrestling. So we'll wait and see.
He's definitely got to be on the radar for Connolly Cup.
Oh, no doubt.
He's had that kind of year already. I mean, when you play in those big games, the top players in the league will usually rise to the challenge. And not only did Rigerman rise to the challenge, but also so did Rashad Law. He had 3 touchdowns in that game. He kept that team. He kept Maryville in it. He made some spectacular plays, specifically on offense, to keep it close. And when the Maryville was down, they went to Law, and he delivered for them. So he was able to get them back. They missed a kick at one point, which took some of the wind out of the sails, if you will. But that was.
I think he had 2 runs over 80 yards.
Yes, the first touch. Well, it was.
94, I think 94. And 80.
Yeah, so they held Pioneer on their first set of downs. Pioneer was driving, but ended up they stalled out. Maryville had it at the 15. First play didn't go for much. Second play to Law, 85-yard touchdown. He did have to break a couple of tackles to get there. It wasn't a clean run, but he just sprinted out. Once he had that open field, he was gone. Nobody caught him, but that was the first touchdown, and that seemed like it was going to be Maryville's day, but Pioneer didn't give up. They went on a nice, super long drive. Took them into the second quarter before they finally scored. And they had some nice long drives sustained pretty much all day. I don't think Maryville had the ball for more than 8 or 9 minutes all game. So they did what they had to do in keeping the ball out of Connor Desiderio's hands. Cheektowaga, another convincing win. They haven't given up a point yet. What do you make of these Cheektowaga Warriors so far through 3 weeks?
I think they're just as strong as the last few teams that have wound up in the state semifinals. And Tamel Bass, the wide receiver, who was injured last year, who couldn't play, he's a stud on both sides of the ball. But then because his brother, he's an outstanding defensive lineman. But when you have someone like Keshawn Beal, and you have to give credit to the Warriors because he was a stud as a freshman on JVs. They kept him down as a sophomore because they had so much talent at the varsity level. And he's a class act. He's going to do well wherever he does in his lifetime. But it's fun to watch him. Plus, when you look at it, he, over the last few years, has developed a nice touch.
Sure.
And they've got speed to burn.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Dick, you got Pioneer and Cheektowaga playing this Friday night. If not the game of the week, it better be up there with the Lancaster and Clarence game. But I'll tell you what, this is a game that I know that WNY Athletics is going to be all over. I don't know what to make of that game. Pioneer's given up some points this year. They had some, they had their handful of the Maryville offense at times. I'm skeptical to see what Cheektowaga can do against them. I'm skeptical of Pioneer, defense being able to stop Cheektowaga.
I think when you look at it, it starts with Beal, who's a one person or one player wrecking rack. He just runs over people. He's got the body of a linebacker, a defensive lineman, and he's got the speed of a running back. And when so they have so many weapons, and that's what. But then you have to look at the coach, and Jim DePray's been there 16 years. He's done an outstanding job, and Mike Batt has been there for 6 years. And in 6 years, he's probably got one of the best percentage of wins during that period. And they plus Scott Zip, and then the JVs that they have. with Jeff, they've been like unbeaten almost. I think they've lost a couple of games in the last 3 or 4 years. So winning breeds winning, but when you have winning breeds winning, but when you have the talent that they have, and they don't rebuild, they just reload.
Yeah, they certainly do. Heading over to B2, Albion gets another win this weekend. So does Medina, Lindenville, Barker. Those three teams that are combined. They're both 2-0. Olean's 2-1. Lackawanna 1-1. This is all in league play, and then Springville and Depew are still looking for their first wins. What do you like about that Albion team now that they're 2-0? They scored 119 points, only giving up 26. They're leading that point differential by 93.
Well, when you have Eugene Harrison, who's a stud, been 3-year starter, Bryce Pritchard, the quarterback, excuse me, I think he plays basketball, and then Bester Stevo, who's an outstanding lineman. But you take what they've done the last few years, they believe in themselves, they have a lot of confidence, they're playing smash mouth football, and they're going back now, Adam Brenning, to the days of Dick Domenico when they won every year, the division.
They're looking pretty good. The Medina Lindenville team, they're undefeated at 3-0 overall, 2-0 in league play. They had a big win over Newport just last Saturday night. Olean, 2 in a row now they've won, so they're starting to turn heads again.
They play non-leaguer in week 5, Southwestern, and it's at Olean. But when you take a look at what Southwestern's been doing, it'd be a tough matchup, but it would be a non-leaguer.
Yeah, for sure. Down in B3, Fredonia and Dunkirk, 2 convincing wins after Dunkirk had a little bit of a hiccup a week earlier in Tonawanda. They seem to get things rolling. They're both 3-0. Fredonia and Dunkirk, of course, they meet up. Is it week 7 or week 8 they'll meet up this year? Week 7, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Burgard, they're at 1-1. Newfane 1-2. Tonawanda 1-2 gets their first win. I said last week after that Dunkirk game, either Dunkirk didn't take them lightly or Tonawanda is better than what we thought they were. And they had a good game against Dunkirk, but they had a real good game here on Saturday against Newfane. They ended up winning the game thanks to a blocked field goal attempt. So Tonawanda now has some confidence. Of course, they've got 2 losses, but that latest win over Newfane might be just what they've been looking for. I don't know if they get into that battle as one of the top 2 teams, but they've got something to work with now. They got a base at least that they can kind of see. They got something going over there.
Yeah, the interesting part is one of the best players is Zach Riddell. He's 5'6", 150. He gets almost double digits in tackles. He gets good average running the ball, and they've got a few other studs, particularly on defense. So it wouldn't surprise me if they wound up in the playoffs.
You never know. There's definitely room for everybody at some point. But I'm definitely excited to see that Tonawanda finally got a win. They're close to home here, so you want to see that Tonawanda NT game be a nice clash like it used to be, yeah. And it looks like it's shaping up to be that way.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised, even with Eric Jancy coming in and with his the coaching staff that he had when they won all those championships. But when you take a look at that, Eric has 98 wins, and I thought they would be able to be one of the leading contenders for the league championship, as well as getting in the
given the fact that A2 didn't look too heavy.
Right, and particularly now when you look at it, you have Grand Island and that's it, and then everything else is going to be probably wait till the last week of the season.
I still like McKinley and possibly Williamsville East, but Kemmerer is going to crash that party. It seems like they have already, but I like that McKinley team. I don't know what happened in Grand Island on that rare Saturday night, but I think McKinley wants to do over there. They should be a lot better than what we've seen out of them so far this year.
I think Kayer Beals, got his first 100-yard rushing against Grand Island. But the thing that turned the corners for the Vikings was Cam Sionko overcame the injury he had set out last week. He threw 4 touchdown passes. I think he threw 3, to Justin Garrell. And so if Cam's healthy, that changes all of the dynamics.
Certainly does. It certainly does. No question about it. Moving on to Class C, Cole Snyder and the Southwestern Trojans are 3-0 league and overall. Casadega Falcon are 2-1, along with Chautauqua Lake. Chautauqua Lake got back in the win column this past weekend. So you look like you got three pretty good teams there in C. Randolph, Frewsburg, 1-1, along with Portville, and then Franklinville, Ellicottville, and Allegheny Limestone, combined 0-5 in league play. So when you look at Class C, obviously it all starts and it ends pretty much with Southwestern.
Well, I think you go with Southwestern. If you take a look at Cole Snyder, he's got 800 yards combined offense, and then I think it's 14 touchdowns, 12 or 14 touchdowns. And if you look at his athleticism and how he excels in three different sports, having a commitment to Rutgers, I thought at the beginning of the season they should be into the championship game. But then if you also look at Casadega Valley Faulkner, Robbie Van Hello, and Connor Crabtree are outstanding players. And I think they've had Ben Hello actually, I think, played for Faulkner. I think he had 3 or 4 brothers. They all were outstanding athletes. He's an outstanding athlete, and that could be a good semifinal matchup.
No question about it. Then people are looking forward to that one already. If we get down into Class C South, looks like Cleve Hill got back on track.
North.
I'm sorry, C North. Cleve Hill had that big win over Wilson a couple weeks ago, but then they had another big one over previously unbeaten Gowanda. Just talk about what you liked out of Cleve Hill this past weekend.
Aaron Whaler, I think, had 4 touchdowns in that game, 10 tackles. And if you put Aaron Whaler, Javon Thomas, and then Mario Grant, it's an accident waiting to happen with their speed. And they're part of a track team that won the state championship.
Yeah, well, I like what we see there. Wilson had a big win over Akron, a team that they have to beat to stay on track for the playoffs. Now, in Class C, 8 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so you're going to have the crossovers where you might see a Wilson play, have to go all the way down to Southwestern if they make it that far.
1 and 4. So if you take Cleveland Hill, Wilson, and then take Gowanda and Silver Creek, and then match that up with Southwestern, Casadega Valley, and then Chautauqua Lake, and I'm blocking on the other one. But that, the cities would be important.
Randolph,
right. Yeah. And Randolph's got the stud lineman,
Bernard,
and he's getting double-digit tackles every game, and he's opened up holes.
Can Casadega Falconer seemingly beat Southwestern, you think?
They've got their work cut out because when you have Southwestern's returned 17 starters from last year with all that experience. And then if you take a stud like Cole at the quarterback position and then Alex Card, wide receiver, that's one of the best passing combinations. And at this level, when you have a passing combination like that has been going on for the Trojans for 4 or 5 years, then it's very difficult for a running team to beat them.
So they've got Allegheny, talk about Southwestern right now. They've got Allegheny Limestone and then Olean. Olean, that non-league you talked about, so you can kind of throw that one away. Whether they win or lose that game is not important. But then you've got Chautauqua Lake and Casadega Falconer in back-to-back weeks. Kurt Fisher's coming in with a game plan, and they're going to get some pressure on Cole, probably the likes of which he hasn't seen all season. So that could be a trap game for them right there. And then who knows if they're looking past that one to play Casadega Falconer. I think Southwestern has a tough road to finish out the season. They're going to have a tough one in Chautauqua Lake, and whatever's left, they got to go out there and face Casadega Falconer in the following weekend.
If you're going to get to the championship game, you got to beat sometimes champions in your own division.
Yes.
It also depends on the seedings. And a couple of years ago, for example, I think Medina was seeded 1 in the Bs. Lackawanna was 8. Lackawanna comes in and beats them. So you can earn the right to be in the playoffs, but if you want to earn the right to be a championship, you have to leave everything on the field, listen to the coaches, have a good game plan, and play the best game you ever played every game.
Those big matchups with Chautauqua Lake and Casadega Falconer is only going to make Southwestern a better team in the long run.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Plus, if Southwestern gets, connected with Cleveland Hill in the championship game, Cleveland Hill's line is nothing like it's been, and Southwestern doesn't have a bad game, and Cooper Penn is really excels at the line. And but when Cleveland Hill beat Southwestern the last couple of times, it was mainly because their
The two big studs, yeah.
shut down the passing game. And if you do that, Southwestern's not going to win.
Yeah, and Southwestern has to find a way to run the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have to open up a different way to. We know they can beat you through the air, but if you can shut that down somehow, like Cleveland has had luck doing, then there has to be another dynamic to that offense. And Cole can run too, but I don't think they want to see him running the ball too often.
No. He's got 86 yards and 2 TDs rushing. But I'm sure that every time Jehu sees that he's going to be running, which most of the time is probably going to be based on a play breaking down, and you don't want to see your ace, hurt.
That's one thing that Wilson did a good job of against Cleveland, was getting the ball out to the receivers. And I think Southwestern has some good receivers. I think the receivers are a little better than the one at Wilson. I think they're better receivers at Southwestern than they are at Wilson. And I think that's where Southwestern may have a leg up this year. But then again, if they meet up, you're playing at New Era Field in that lower bowl where the wind picks up. So we'll have to see. And I think that's where Southwestern ran into trouble last year. Just there's so much wind down there by the time game time rolled around. Even if, Cole had a hard time throwing that ball.
Going into the season, this is the year of the quarterback. There's so many quality quarterbacks. If you just take 2 of them that are on fire, Aaron Chase and Cole Snyder. They not only are outstanding athletes, they play other sports, but they also have GPAs like our 96, 97. So they've got the whole
enchilada.
Everything. They get the whole package. And when you have the smarts along with the athleticism, etc., and you can make the right decisions, you're going to be, getting the championship.
Absolutely. Moving on to Class D, where CSP continues to win. They're 2-0 in league play now. Maple Grove 1-1 along with Salamanca, and then Cat Little Valley are 0-2. So look, and you mentioned this last week on the program that CSP was now state ranked number 1 in New York State in Class D. That's got to be, the Wolfpack's got to be feeling good about themselves. But how much can they read into that type of press? I mean, they were getting some press last year, but nothing like they are this year. How much could that hurt them?
They're a much better team this year. And plus, the competition isn't as good. There's only 4 teams. They got to play each team twice, I think. And they play Maple Grove in week 6 again. But what they have going for them is they've got the chemistry, they got the winning culture. They were 6-3 last year, and I really believe that they could win this section and go on and at least get to the state semifinals, because I think they could also be a good matchup or have a good matchup in Rochester.
Today's show is brought to you by Scroy Financial of West Seneca, the Paul Wolf Agency in Kenmore, CSA Prep Star, the North End Bar and Grill, Cipriano Realtors, BuffaloSportsPage.com, and by Southtown Trophies in Orchard Park, New York, a proud sponsor of the Buffalo Sports Page Athlete of the Week Award, announced each week on BuffaloSportsPage.com.